How long do you last on your dirt bike? Yeah, it's time to talk about battery range because that's all anyone ever seems to care about with the electric dirt bikes. All right, let's get into it. We've been giving this thing absolute heaps since we got it, and this time we've got the data to back up the claims. So settle in because I'm going to walk you through two different riding scenarios and give you the real world range numbers that I got, and we'll give you to them right at the end. Quick reminder of who's riding this thing. I'm David Hogan. I'm a 40-year-old vet rider these days. I get around all right. I have done some racing. I did the Australian Enduro Championship. I've done Hatter. I've done a few 4-days back in the day. No great results to brag about, but I move along decently if I do say so myself. Now, before we get into the scenarios, here's how the bike was set up for all of these tests. We used the 60 horsepower map version, 0 engine braking or regen was set, and the bike was fully charged before every single ride. Same rider, same bike, same conditions, as much as possible that we could control. So here's what we tested. We went on a motocross track, we went flat out. And then we did a tight single track, ridden cross-country pace. We haven't done a trail ride with your mates where you'd go out for a long ride and have a chat halfway through because this bike isn't registered. So rather than being chased by the cops, we left this one out for now. Hope you understand on that one. So first up, the motocross test. Proper 20-minute motos. No cruising, no saving batteries. I got an average speed through that moto of 45 kilometers an hour. I hit a top speed of 90 kilometers an hour. And the maximum horsepower I used of the available 60, I only hit 58 a couple of times in that moto. Battery-wise, I used roughly 40% per 20-minute moto. And I comfortably did 2 full motos. On the third moto, I dropped into what I like to call the limp mode, about halfway through, and I had to pull off to charge. Now, limp mode is when the bike gets to that point of about 15, 10, and 5%, and it starts dropping down the power output that's available for you so that you can hopefully get back to your car. Next up, we hit the tight single tracks, and when I say tight, this thing is tight. We're riding it cross-country style, pushing hard. Each loop here is about 20 minutes in length. An average speed here that I did was about 25 kilometers an hour, and at a max speed I hit was 65 kilometers an hour. Now, I used the max horsepower of that available 60, I only just cracked over the 50 here on this track. In this scenario, I can comfortably do an hour and 10 minutes or 3 laps of the track and still have 20 to 25% battery remaining. I did do one run all the way to that limp mode, and it was about 8% remaining where I stopped, and I got an hour and 35 minutes total, and I was cooked. So there you have it. That's the battery range. I was able to get out of this bike and I pushed it. Honestly, in the single track style of riding, the majority of you out there are going to wear out before you run out of battery. I was cooked at that hour and 35-minute mark, and this is the summer heat here in Australia. I did not need to ride any longer than that. Now, of course, this isn't going to let you ride in every race scenario or ride scenario that you have out there. A 2 or 3 hour flat out cross country is still a stretch unless you're swapping out batteries, which not everyone's capable of doing. But that's not really the point here. The point is that this is to figure out what you can do with this bike, and if you can do what you're looking to do with your ride time, this bike's perfect. If your riding scenario fits inside these scenarios, then a lot of people are going to absolutely love this bike. If you add in the fact that this bike outperforms most other bikes in those scenarios, then it's pretty easy to figure out what choice you should buy at the purchase time. This thing has power delivery, control, silence, and heaps of adjustability. It's a very different experience, but it's a very good experience. If it fits your riding type and what you're trying to do with your ride time, have a look at a Stark Varg EX. All right, now with the Stark Varg EX, there's something else I want to mention. It's not necessarily a battery range that we're talking about here, but it's about the fact of the benefit of an electric dirt bike. One, you can charge this thing up while you're at work, because for me that worked best with the solar setup in the charging, and we'll talk about that in our charging video, so check that one out on our channel. But it's the fact that you could get up at 6 AM when the sun's just first popping up, jump on and go straight out of the shed and ride, straight past the neighbor's house, and they didn't even know you were there. The other part of this is maybe you charge it through the day, you've knocked off at 5 o'clock after your work day. Normally it's straight to dinner and bed because that's where, noise and stuff, you can't do that, particularly on most tracks at all. But I was able to go out, do an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes on this bike. Nobody knew I was out there. It's such a nice little feature. You can actually use your bike more than you would a petrol bike. So yes, the range aspect is obviously a concern for some people about how much they can get out of it, but the fact that you can actually use this bike way more often, multiple times throughout the week, and charge it while you're at work so it's ready to go when you come home, game changer. This thing will open up how often you actually go riding. Rather than being once a week, once a fortnight when you can get out on the weekend during that, middle of the day time, you can use this thing pretty much any time. And the headlight on this thing is actually really bright. If you couple that with a helmet light on your top of your visor there, you'd probably be able to go out and use this thing in the middle of the night too. So don't just think of this bike as the fact that there's a range issue. Think of it about how it's opening up your possibilities of riding more often than not. All right, so that's our video on our battery range. Hopefully that's answered a few questions for you. I'm David Hogan. That's an AlwaysMoto production. That's how far we got out of the Stark Varg EX battery. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. I know you're going to have questions on the battery range, so drop them below. If you want to support our channel, please do so. Hit that subscribe button. So what are you waiting for? Get the power lead out, charge up the Stark Varg, and we'll see you at the track.